First one comes in. I got a DM on my Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast Instagram, from Daniel. So Daniel says, in regards to Lourdes Gurriel Jr., there seems to be general confusion about his free agent year. Some analysts saying he's a free agent in 2 years, so after the 2024 season, and some are saying he's a free agent after this year, after the 2023 season. Could you please
Now, this is all about service time. This is all about service time, the amount of games played. So Adam did his research.
Says, could you figure this out for me, please? And if it is just 1 year, how does this change things and how you view the Varsho trade? So right now I'm on my laptop, so I can't do the screen sharing because I don't have the nice fancy computer at home. But Ben Nicholson-Smith, this tweet comes from November 10th, 2021, so about 13 months ago. I'll link to this tweet in the show notes. But Ben Nicholson-Smith says, one administrative note of significance to the Blue Jays. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is on track to hit free agency after the 2023 season. So there you go, after this year. Not after the 2024 season, as many had assumed. He'll have 5+ years of service after 2023. However, he would still be eligible based on the deal that he signed with the Blue Jays. So, there you go. He's going to get to free agency 1 year earlier than the typical major leaguer, but that is based on the contract that he negotiated when the Blue Jays bought out his ARB years and stuff like that. So, this year was a walk year for Teoscar Hernandez. We knew that. That made sense in part of the calculation in terms of getting rid of him for, Eric Swanson.
Yes.
The relief pitcher we got from the Mariners. A lot of people felt like that was not the value we should have gotten for Teoscar Hernandez. I mean, was it 4 years of control of Eric Swanson?
3 years of Eric Swanson, and of course Adam Macko, who is a Canadian kid, lefty pitcher, highly touted by this Blue Jays scouting system. So that was kind of the cherry on the top there. Yeah, it's the thing with expiring contracts. It's tough to get the value of the player when you only get them as a rental. And that, I think, is what we're seeing with what was returned on Teoscar. And as for Lourdes, I think he was almost for the Blue Jays not to add more prospects on top of that Gabriel Moreno, they had to go with Lourdes. And he was an expiring contract, and it was a crowded outfield to bring in Varsho, and now they're going to go out and get a cheaper option as that fourth outfielder. Or go from within.
I mean, they got Whit Merrifield. They got Kevin Biggio. They could still go out and re-sign a Raymel Tapia.
Nathan Lukes and Addison Barger both on the 40-man.
As far as the calculus goes with the Dalton Varsho trade, I mean, I was already content with it. But this, I think, pushes me even further into contentment. It's nice to know the clarification that Lourdes Gurriel Jr. was, in fact, going to be a free agent this year. I have no idea what money to expect out of him, but after seeing some of the contracts a guy like Brandon Nimmo got, or Michael Conforto, you'd have to assume it's going to be north of $10 million a year.
Yeah, I was just going to say $10 million a year is probably a pretty good guess there. Something like,
so if he gets like a
3 years,
3 or 4 year deal at like 40-ish million,
40 mil, yeah.
And yeah, I don't think the Blue Jays saw him and Teoscar as part of their long-term plan. So if they weren't going to sign them in free agency next year or give them any sort of an extension, then even if you are disappointed with Eric Swanson, it's better than a qualifying offer and getting some compensatory draft picks next offseason. Can we agree on that?
Could not agree more with that. And I think one thing to keep in mind as Blue Jays fans is when we watch homegrown talents such as Teoscar Hernandez and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. come up the ranks. I know Teoscar was acquired from Houston, but we basically saw him from the point of a AAA player all the way up to a silver slugger. whenever you watch that development from within, I know I'm guilty of this. Sometimes it's easy to look at a guy and be like, he still has more potential. He still has more potential. You even hear folks in Blue Jays land talk about Lourdes and more potential. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is coming up on his age 30 season.
That's a great point.
You just hit a point where a guy is what he is. And I'm not saying that Teoscar and Lourdes don't have incredible value. They do, but we've seen the peak value that they bring to a team.
Yeah, and I mean, I just want to address the fact, too, that, like, we've been saying this since the Jays were eliminated from the Mariners in early October, that this was going to be an uncomfortable offseason.
Mm-hmm.
That a lot of fans were going to be upset because if a shakeup was coming, which we both agreed was necessary, and here it is, that some fan favorites weren't going to be here anymore. Right? We didn't know which ones. We didn't know if there was a massive Bo Bichette trade somewhere happening. We didn't know if it was going to be Lourdes or Teoscar or both. Turns out it's both. We had that 3-catcher dragon that we had to deal with.
Yeah.
we didn't know which one of those was gone, right? But obviously there's a lot of Alejandro Kirk fans. There's a lot of Danny Jansen believers. A lot of people really loving Gabriel Moreno, and rightly so. But now we're starting to see, okay, the pieces are gone, and there's going to be growing pains. It's a necessary part of the job. Every team deals with it, right? If you're an Atlanta Braves fan, you just watch Freddie Freeman go to the Braves. You watch Dansby Swanson leave. I mean, you're happy to see a guy like Sean Murphy come in and join the fold. The Braves are going to be good again next year, but it sucks watching a guy that you've loved for, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
Leave for a name you've never really heard of before. And that's the case with Dalton Varsho for so many people.
And one of my favorite things about sports fandom is how heated arguments can get. And really, as Blue Jays fans, we just all want this team to win. Like it was getting pretty heated in text with Joel. Yeah. Hey, call me. Love Joel. He just views this Varsho trade differently than we do. We tried to get him on the show, and we will, obviously. He had some family stuff he had to deal with. And so Craig Ballard, who came on the 26th, he tends to be a little bit of his own voice as well. But on this particular moment with this trade, he was with Adam and I. So it was just 3 of us going, oh, yeah, this Varsho deal's great. A lot of people in the comments obviously are like, you guys are idiots. We feel very differently. But this is what I love, man, is I love arguing with Joel over stuff. And in the end, both of us are like, well, I hope that we're both right or wrong. Like it's like if I'm wrong about something and the Jays win, I'm fine to take that L. I love taking losses when the Jays are correct with their evaluation of talent.
Well, I mean, and it's funny because I know both of us are believers that the Blue Jays are in good hands with Shapiro Atkins. Again, that's another divisive topic. We don't have to spend too much time on it here today. But generally, and I know I just spent all the morning of the Varsho Moreno trade talking myself into really hoping Moreno was the catcher of the future for the Blue Jays.
We did mailbag in the morning right before he was traded, and the whole show was about maybe Moreno's the guy.
Yeah. So that has aged poorly. Now, does that make me a flippity-floppity kind of a guy? Maybe. The way I look at it is I'm not a fan of players so much as I'm a fan of the Blue Jays.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a Blue Jay, I'm going to root for you. Was I booing the TV when the Astros were on and George Springer was wearing the orange and blue? Yeah, of course. Like any good baseball fan, I was booing the Astros. But guess what? When he came to the Blue Jays and he put on the blue and the blue, all right, I'm rooting for George Springer. Like, that's the way it's going to be. So, Gabriel Moreno, best of luck in Arizona. I'm glad you're not on the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Boston Red Sox.
Here.
I wish Gabriel Moreno a Hall of Fame career. And I hope he plays every single game in Arizona.
Exactly. Stay in the desert, Gabby.
But now that he's not a Blue Jay, and now that Dalton Varsho is, I love Dalton Varsho. I mean, I'm going to go into the season with an open mind. and I'm going to hope for the success of Dalton Varsho. Is
And
that
this
unreasonable?
is the beautiful thing. It's not. And this is the thing. I think all of these people who are upset and hate this trade are in the same boat, though, right? If Varsho does well and helps this team, they're going to be like, Lourdes who? Love Dalton.
Oh, man. When Lourdes Gurriel Jr., though, signs with the Yankees next offseason, that's going to be a tough one. All right.
Teoscar will be a rough one in pinstripes. Yeah.
All
right, everybody. This was a long one, but thank you so much for all of your comments. Obviously, if we didn't get to your comments, apologies. Feel free to continue to try as this community grows. You can feel free to join our Discord. Link in the show notes. Always free to join. At Walk Off Podcast on Twitter, the Walk Off Podcast on Instagram. If you are watching us on our Clips channel, please help us continue to grow and hit the subscribe button. And if you're watching us on our main channel here, the full thing, number one, thanks that you, pretty cool that you have made the choice to sit and watch us as dummies for over an hour here. So thank you so much. But also, help us grow there. Hit that sub, hit that like button. All right, gang, all the best. We'll see you when we see you.